What is up, beautiful people? My name is Jade Wee, and today we're going to be looking at an amazing sequencer by Endorphins. So you guys know that I normally have my Varigate 4 Plus in here, but I've been wanting something more linear, something more structured, something that I can make my tracks on, save them, recall them, and really just create sets that I can gig with this. So when I heard about the sequencer, when I first saw it, I'm like, whoa, this looks like there's a lot going on in here. And that's because there is, but it's actually super powerful. So this is a 4-track sequencer. One of the tracks is a drum track, so we get 8 drum gates. Here we have the Queen of Pentacles, so we're going to be literally going straight out of there into there. Very simple. We have 3 melodic tracks, CV and gate, for 3 tracks. We can also make one of those tracks MIDI. We have a reset out and a clock out if you want to clock and send signal to another sequencer. So let's go ahead and do that now because that's what we're going to be doing with the voltage block. And then we have a MIDI in, like I said, 3.5. MIDI out 3.5, reset in, clock in. So if we had an external sequencer and we wanted to clock it from that, let's say for example Varigate 4 Plus was here, we would send out of that into here. We also have reset inputs for all of our tracks and external CV inputs, as well as a mod out for all of our drums. The little squishy buttons up here are mute buttons for all of our tracks. We also have a mute all drums. This is a very performance oriented sequencer. Everything Endorphins is. We also have the 1U Endorphins modules here. I'm going to make a separate video on those, but these modules are pretty dope, and just like I said, they're very performance oriented, so are these. So like, check out the cockpit. How cool is that? Mute, unmute. We have our pattern page that lets us switch between our patterns. We can do this individually. So for example, if I just want to change A, I can change that, or we can lock them all, which makes a little more sense. We can just lock them together and we can have them all move together. But a cool thing that I like to do is I like to make variations of my drums on A, and then I'll just lock them, and then I'll switch, and then I'll just change my drums and then lock it again. So you just have to get used to it, and it's very like combination pressy, which is awesome because there's very little menu diving, like none at all really, except for like setting the probabilities with the CV inputs and stuff. Besides that, it's super hands-on. Below that, we have our octave buttons. These also double as our transpose buttons. You can do that by semitones or by octaves. Then we have these 4 notes right here that double as our arpeggiator. We're able to set ratchets with this, change the velocity, direction of the arpeggiator, or play, stop, and record. A convenient last step which lets you set the length of your pattern. So 16, you can change it by these, by 16s. You can change it individually with these ones, or you can even type it in using the keys. So that's pretty cool. A load project button that lets us load and save our tracks. It also doubles as our mute and solo buttons, and our tempo button that can be tapped in or set by just holding it and then doing it like this, or by tens using the page buttons. Below our screen is how we select our tracks, and at first it's a little confusing because you might be like track 1, track 2, but you have to remember that these are our mutes. So to select your track, you have to use these track buttons. Then we have this beautiful 2-octave keyboard. So the main reason I love this sequencer is because of this keyboard. Like, I've been trying to have a keyboard in my case for the longest, and the options out there aren't very like user friendly. Like, they have that 84 HP one. That's like, I don't even know how much it is. It's like $700, and it's not even like a sequencer. It's just a touch plate keyboard. Then they have another like little Pittsburgh touch plate keyboard, but I'm really glad that they didn't go with touch plate, because at first I'm like, okay, these buttons are a little weird, but they're actually super playable. And if you don't want to program your sequences using these buttons, you can use the USB out. So you can go out of here into a full-size MIDI controller or a mini MIDI controller or whatever, and then just record your sequences that way. It saves on here, and then you just unplug this, and then you go and perform with this. So that's pretty awesome. We also have a USB-B that lets us use the sequencer with our VSTs in our DAW. So lots of stuff going on here. And like I said, it seems a little intimidating at first, but this is a monster house of a sequencer. So let's get to making some music because I'm excited about this thing. So first things first, we're going to plug in our drums. We're going to go out of our gates, straight into the Queen of Pentacles. To be able to hear the Queen of Pentacles, we need to plug the audio out into our mixer. So you might have noticed that I'm using the 3.5 stereo jack instead of the 1/4 inch outs. That's because this is the version 1 of this IntelliGel case. The version 2 has a different output, so they do sell it separately if you want to upgrade it, so just a heads up. If you look closely, you can see that these keys are numbered and they belong to our drums. So this is actually how we play our drums. So there's a few ways to record. I'm going to add a kick drum, and I'm going to hold the record button, and that's going to put me into the first recording mode where it's not blinking, and then I can just easily put my steps in. With the new silver panel, they like outlined where that first beat is, but this black panel has like a little line right here so you can tell where that 4/4 is. So And the cool thing about setting that kick first is that now we can live record. So if I press play and then I just press record, now it's blinking, I can live record. So super simple to get drums going, honestly, to get anything going. So let's plug in a melodic voice, of course, rings. And I had clouds in here, but you know clouds is huge. And I had beats for a little while, but I wasn't really feeling it. But this Milky Way. So I'm gonna send the gate from track 1 into the strum and the pitch into the volt per octave. I'm going to switch to track 1. Do you hear those beautiful slides? So cool to be able to record slides on the fly. Let's go ahead and record something. We can also, actually, let me show you the arpeggiator because that's also a lot of fun. And then we have up, down, random, and order. Let's go through those. We can also record our arpeggiator. And another cool thing about this is that it kind of has like a count-in. They did like a wait. So the way that you access that is that you hold tempo and then press record. So this enters wait mode. And what this does is that it doesn't start recording until you press a note. So I am on my ARP. The ARP is on and I'm just gonna record. This is what happened, check it out. Last step 2. So we only have 2 steps going on. So we need to fix that. I'm just going to extend that. Let's change that to 64. And then I'm just gonna delete that. To do that, simply hold that, delete. All right, let's try that one more time. Turn on my arpeggiator. I love rings, it's really my favorite voice. Something to mention when using digital oscillators is that they don't all go past -5 volt. And what this means is that with modular, like for example, C is going to be 0 and then everything over here is positive and after that is negative. So with rings, yes, we can play all the way throughout. So if I'm over here in my main octave, I can go. But let me show you what happens when I plug something in like the Osiris or the polycinematic. I'm gonna run the Osiris through this stereo delay so we get that stereo because this mixer is stereo. And then we have this one input, the first one, that is 3.5 stereo in. I haven't really found a use for that with this case. Maybe with the Rample. I'm not sure if the Rample is stereo out, but it would have been nice to be able to switch that mono and stereo, but it's okay. So we got this. And then if I go to my track 2, let's plug that in. We're going to send gate 2 into the trig and our pitch into the volt per octave. We're going to go to track 2, turn that up a little bit, find a better sound. Okay, that's good for now. Let's make sure that these are both tuned to the same note. It's good to know that these modules are keeping tuned because I haven't used this in a couple of days, so that's cool. All right, so we have this Osiris now. So what I was telling you guys about is that after we reach the C, so for example, we have all of these are going to be C from the end, like that's it. So it's not a problem with the sequencer. It's actually a problem with digital oscillators that they just don't go that far. It's just a normal thing. So you may have noticed that I was moving a little slow. That's because we can actually change our clock divisions. So the way that we do that is we hold this button and then we can choose it. So this lowest one is the slowest one. So it's gonna move super slow. And then the first one is the fastest one. Okay, we're going to make sure our length is at 64. And here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to press the load button, record, and then record one more time. It is saved. And we're also going to make a variation of this project. So the cool thing about the sequencer, like I said, it's very performance oriented. All these keys turn into our projects, A through Z. So that's an awesome and quick way to switch between your projects and your patterns. Super convenient. But you need to pay attention and make sure that your pattern is locked, because if not, it's just going to change the pattern for that specific track. So I'm going to go and press these two. Now when I switch to B, I am right over here. But let's say I want to make a variation of A. So I'm going to go back to A. I have it right there. I'm going to press project and record, and then I'm going to press B. So that's now saved onto B. So let's make the track of the Osiris go an octave higher. To do that, we're going to hold the track button and octave up. I'm going to delete my first track so we get a little more variation in our second pattern, and I'm going to arm our track, activate our arpeggiator, and here we go. So let's go ahead and add some ratchets and slides so we can give more life to this pattern. To do that, we're going to hold the record button. That's going to put us in edit. Then we use these page buttons to scroll through our steps. Where there's nothing is no steps. We can add steps if we want to. And then if we want to add a slide, we just do that. Put a slide right there, slide right there. The ratchets is this button right here. So I'm going to put that ratchet right there. Another ratchet there. All right, let's hear what that sounds like. So we have our ratchets, and as you hear, they're all the same. I'm going to add more ratchets just so we have a few at the beginning. Now we can edit our ratchets. So if we press tempo and then ratchets, it tells us how many ratchets we currently have. We switch these using the octave button, so we can have 4 ratchets forward, which means that every time a ratchet plays, it's going to increment in time, and then random, which gives us random ratchets every time the sequence ends. So let's try that one. Save. Now we go on to pattern B. So I'm going to clear this pattern because I'm not really feeling it, and then I'm just going to enter some new notes. So here we go. Adjust my steps. Let's do 64. Let's do it. So we could go in and make variations of these patterns. Let's say a variation with a pattern that doesn't have any drums, or maybe track 1 is different or whatever. But that's why we have these beautiful mute buttons. So if we are going to perform, we can just start off with just a few drums, or maybe no drums. So let's actually change the drums for the second sequence so I can show you guys what I was talking about when I lock and unlock these. To delete all my drums, I just hold this and all drums, and boom, all my drums are gone. So I'm going to input new drums, and I'm just going to set that first kick with the weight record. So by holding tempo, we can access all of these settings. We have scales, our MIDI channel options, sync division, slide time, our ratchets, our probability, shuffle, mod out, which is in charge of this mod out over here, external CV, which controls these tracks over here, and then the direction of our sequence. So we can have that go forward, go reverse, pendulum, or random, and random step. We have our metronome that I'm assuming it takes one of the voices and gives us a metronome, and then we can nudge our tracks, and then also settings for our arpeggiator. But yeah, guys, a super powerful sequencer and only 42 HP. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if your case doesn't have power, you can use this output to power your case. So, I mean, it's a great starting point. They're a bit pricey, but not really if you take into consideration everything that is going on here. Like, you have 2 octaves to play with, you have a full 8-gate sequencer, plus 3 melodic tracks. So there's a lot going on here, guys. I'm going to be making a separate video about the 1U modules very soon, so stay tuned for that. But that is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. And if you like what I do, consider supporting us on Patreon. Love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.